decide to lock them up in a room for the whole night. I'm sorry, but that's just brutal in my eyes. I think you're a terrible mother. Good afternoon, welcome back to our channel. My little sweet potato pie here is very attached these days, so usually I'm able to just pop her on the side and film stuff while being in the same room, but right now she is wailing, she is crying, begging for attention, so this is how we're going to record today. A little update, so Alyssa is now 8 months old. Still no teeth, no signs of teething. I mean, to be fair, I feel like she's been teething since 3 months old, but no physical teeth coming out yet. She has been very clingy recently, and that's okay. I'm a mother, she's my daughter, it's normal. And going through with the clinginess, we're going to talk about sleep training today. Dear mums, if you're struggling to sleep, if your baby not sleeping all night, then I'm hoping this video is going to help you. Today we'll be talking about sleep training, little tips. I'll talk through the sleeping training methods and what I'm personally doing now with Alyssa. Now, I am aware that there's different type of parenting, so not everyone is against or for different sleep training methods, but personally here in this household we're planning to gentle parent, partially at least try gentle parenting, just because I grew up with not gentle parenting, let's put it that way. So I want to give my love, as much as love possible, to my daughter. Not that I wasn't given love, but that's not the way I see raising my daughter. Again, I'm not judging any mums. If you do decide to sleep train in the harshest ways, because I understand every mum is going through stuff, and sometimes you have to take extreme measures. Let's get into the video. So first of all, I'll talk you through what's Alyssa's like. Since birth, she's been sleeping only about 2 to 3 hours at a time. Once she got to 3 months, I decided to co-sleep because I just could no longer do it of getting up every 2 hours, feeding, changing, and co-sleeping was only way that I could keep myself safe. I am aware that co-sleeping is not everyone's choice, and some might actually find it is dangerous, but let me educate about something. A lot of mums say SIDS, it causes SIDS. SIDS is not caused with co-sleeping. SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome, meaning the baby suddenly dies without any cause. So if you've seen stories where baby dies from co-sleeping, it was not due to SIDS, it was due to suffocation. As simple as that. And quite often those that do die of suffocation is because safe sleep is not followed during co-sleeping. And quite often, especially in my case, I actually found that co-sleeping is a lot safer, because before that, what I used to do, I used to get up, feed her, pretty much fall asleep as I'm breastfeeding her sitting up, and that's way more dangerous. So where I was leading with that is, because of co-sleeping, she has been very attached to me and to breastfeeding. Since birth, she has not taken pacifier. She does not know how to put herself to sleep. The only way she would go to sleep is from breastfeeding. About a month ago, I started stressing out that I'm gonna breastfeed my baby till she's like 5 years old, that she's not going to be able to put herself to sleep. So that's when I started researching sleep training methods, coming across very disturbing ways of putting a baby to sleep. I know I said no judgment, but in my opinion, if you do the cry it out method. I will talk through the methods in a second. The most brutal method, I think you're a terrible mother. Again, I understand that sometimes, you know, there could be circumstances where you are very unwell or you got multiple babies and this is the only way, then of course no judgment there. But if you are capable of being a good mother and following through what your baby needs, and you decide to lock them up in a room for the whole night, I'm sorry, but that's just brutal in my eyes. However, saying that, having a baby latched to you 24/7, where the baby can't sleep without you, is also not great for your mental health and for my hips. My hips are struggling. My hips are in pain, and I'm sure many mothers, co-sleeping mothers, can relate to that. So to quickly summarize this, Alyssa did not take any pacifiers. She would not know how to put her child to sleep. She could not be rocked to sleep. She could not be held to sleep. She had to be breastfed to sleep. Now I wanted to add, of course, you never meet a baby 5 years down the line where it still needs breastfeeding to sleep. Of course not. Eventually babies do grow out of it. But my hips could no longer take it, so I decided to... What have you got to say? Yes. Is that so? You think you need to be breastfed to sleep? Yeah? It's your comfort. I know it's your comfort. And I'm still here. Yes. So what do you do when the baby can't fall asleep without your help? Before I answer this, let's talk about the methods. So starting with the sleep routine method, so it is what it says. So you basically set a routine every single night. You put your baby to sleep at exact same time and you do a routine before that. So what the routine could possibly include, so having a long bath so they tire themselves out, then a massage, creamed, hairbrushed, teeth brushed if they have teeth, warmly dressed for the night. Baby is more likely to wake up throughout the night if it's not warm enough, especially between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. That's when it gets the coldest usually at night, so get your baby very warm, but not too warm. Make sure the baby's well fed. So put a white noise machine, put like a red light that tends to remind them of the womb, and make sure the baby is relaxed and not entertained and interrupted by daddy. Because we know how much daddy loves to bring the energy up before bedtime. So this method would work for a baby that is able to put herself to sleep. Of course, this method should be used for every baby anyway, just so they can use to their bedtime. But as a sleep training method, it does not work for a baby that can't put themselves to sleep. The next method I'll talk about is fading method. So what fading method is keeping an eye on the bedtimes, on the wake windows. So do your research regarding wake windows, see how long your baby needs to be awake for, how long to be asleep for. Of course, it's easier said than done, but keeping those times will help your baby to go to sleep. So if the baby is too tired, it will struggle to go to sleep. If the baby is too awake, it will also struggle to go to sleep. So again, this method will work for a baby that's able to put themselves to sleep. Next method is Ferber method. I might be pronouncing it wrong. Ferber method. That's probably, I would say, is the most popular method, as is actually sleep training and at the same time is not too traumatizing. So what Ferber method is putting your baby awake, down, and then keep checking on them every couple of minutes. And then as the night goes on, the time intervals that you go back to check on them get shorter and shorter. So for example, you put your baby to sleep, after 2 minutes you come and check on them, you reassure them, you tell them that you're here, and then you walk out again. And then next time you come back after 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Of course, that can be seen brutal if you do let them to cry the whole 5, 10, 15 minutes, Or of course you can bend the rules. Nobody has to physically follow the method, you know. You can of course bend the rules, come reassure them a bit more often. If they're completely traumatized, completely, you know, crying out like crazy, then of course you don't have to carry it on. But that method has shown that it does work, and you're still reassuring your baby, but at the same time teaching them to self-settle. Again, this method would not work for us because my baby didn't know how to self-settle. So I knew that if I would have left her there, she would have pretty much cried herself to sleep. Then there's the chair method. So all it is, you put a chair next to the crib, you put your baby down to sleep, and you do not interact with them. So you literally, your baby is aware you are next to them. So in a way you reassure them, but you don't say a word, you don't touch them. And then that way they put themselves to sleep. Again, this requires self-settling. And then the most controversial one is cry it out. I already spoken a little bit about it at the beginning. All it is, you put them in a crib, shut the door, and then come back in the morning. I haven't got much to say apart from what I already said at the beginning. I do not believe in this. I think it's traumatizing for the child. Eventually your baby stops crying, not because it has learned to put themselves to sleep. The baby stops crying because it knows, she knows that mum is no longer coming. Right, so if you are mum like me who read all those methods and was like, how the fuck do I do this if my baby does not self-settle? My baby did not self-settle at all. No pacifiers, no rocking, only breastfeeding. Breastfeeding was the only way that would make my baby go to sleep. Before I talk about my method, I'll quickly talk through who should be sleep trained. So babies should never be sleep trained under 4 months old. Just because the baby hasn't developed that part of the brain that could learn any cues, any sleep training. So there's generally no point sleep training a baby before 4 months old. Plus, even if you do end up sleep training about 3 or under 4 months, your baby's going to go through the sleep regression. And quite often I see mums talk about, oh, my baby slept amazing until it hit the sleep growth, so the growth spurt, the sleep regression, and that's when things went downhill, and now the baby wakes up every 2 hours. So there's literally no point sleep training, because once the baby hits the 4 months mark, it's more likely change the routine anyway. If you do decide to sleep train before 4 months, it will only be damaging. Another reason you don't sleep train a baby under 3 months old is to prevent SIDS. Baby wakes up often enough for a reason. Is the baby healthy? Is the baby gaining weight well? Now the last one, the most important, a baby that can self-soothe, a baby that is ready to be sleep trained. There's no point trying to sleep train if your baby is not showing any signs. So what do you do when a baby needs your help to settle? The answer is nothing. You do nothing. Your baby needs you. It won't last forever. You're gonna be like, what? I watched all this video for no answers. No, there will be an answer. But if your baby generally cannot self-settle or is showing no signs of readiness, then your baby is more likely not ready. Your baby needs you. How many 5-year-olds do you know that still require help going to sleep? Probably not many, or none. But there is a solution. You can sleep train when your baby is starting to show one of these signs. So what is it that baby needs to do that you are going to think your baby is ready to be sleep trained? So now we'll talk about the signs that is showing that your baby is ready to self-settle, to self-soothe. So many of these that we'll be covering, it's mostly our experience. Of course, there might be other signs that you might look and be like, yeah, my baby's ready, my baby's starting to learn. So number one thing that I've noticed, that my baby can fall asleep in a car with motion, but the rocking wasn't helping. She could not be rocked to sleep, but motion in a car would help her go to sleep. Then after a couple of weeks, I've noticed my baby started head shaking. So she would shake her head to kind of help her to go to sleep. That's when I was starting to notice, okay, this is self-soothing. So Alyssa would not take a pacifier, but she would start sucking on her fingers or sometimes on a blanket. So that's also a sign of self-soothing. Another big one I've noticed is covering the face. So what I mean by that, it could be with a blanket, or trying to turn to me to put her face against my hand, or sometimes cover herself with a hand. And that kind of showed me a sign of self-soothing, because it reminded her of that boob feel when she's breastfeeding. She's also quite, she's covering her face. So that could also be a sign of self-soothing. So these are the main 3 ones that would work for us. Of course, every baby is different, so just keep an eye on your baby and see what could be the sign of self-soothing for her or him. So once your baby starts to show those tiny signs that are not quite putting themselves to sleep yet, but they're starting to show that they are learning to, so that's when you can start sleep training. So lastly, we'll talk about my method and what I did to help my baby go to sleep. So first of all, I will say that we are still on a journey. She still can't put herself fully to sleep. We've been sleep training for about a month now, and we have progressed so much from the moment that she would only fall asleep on my boob to now being able to fall asleep on her own in her crib. I still don't just leave her on a crib. I'm still there to kind of help her, soothe a little bit, to reassure, but we have progressed massively. Building positive habits will take time. It's not going to be an overnight situation. So if you want to do this the gentle parenting way, then listen to your baby, listen to the cues, watch out for their self-soothing signs, and then help your baby go further. It's not about you or your sleep. You chose to have this baby, so you're going to have some sleepless nights. It's about your baby. And when your baby is starting to show little signs, you kind of just push them a little bit further and help them. You don't completely, rip them out, put them in a different scenario completely, aka cry out method, and just leave them to be. No, you push them to be a better person. I think that just summarizes the whole parenting, really. So what do we personally do with this method? I'm hoping this method is going to inspire you. I will include a couple of clips so you get to see kind of the progress and what we do to help her go further. So I started sleep training during her naps just because it seems a bit easier. They're much shorter naps, and we are now moving on this method to bedtimes. Bedtime, of course, during the night she still wakes up to breastfeed. I wouldn't want to wake her up and try to sleep train then. So bedtime, we still throughout the night she still sleeps, breastfeeds to sleep. But at daytimes now she is able to put herself to sleep. So as I mentioned, her cues are head shake, sucking on her finger or blanket, and the boob feel, so something being against her face. So based on that, I saw those self-soothing signs, and when I put her to sleep, I kind of push it further and help her with those signs, with those self-soothing. So number one, of course, I put the white noise machine, I put the red light, I close the curtains, just to put that atmosphere of we're going to sleep. Second of all, I look at the wake windows, make sure she is not too tired or not too awake, and then I feed her. Then I breastfeed her to make sure she is full and warm. But I do not let her fall asleep on my boob. Once she's full, what are you doing? Once she's full, I unlatch her and just lay next to her. I then either leave her to be or pop her in a crib, depending on how she's feeling, and then I sing to her. What does Mummy usually sing to you? Mummy usually sings Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how missed you. So during while I was singing to her, I let her self-settle. At the beginning she was of course struggling, so what I would do, I will include a link, I will include a video here. So she loves the head shaking, so I would gently shake her head, just gently, I wouldn't forcefully do it. And then that would help her to go to sleep. At a later stage I stopped doing that. She would do that herself. So now what I do, I allow her to self-settle, and if she needs further assistance from me, she will let me know that she's getting very frustrated, so I'll help shake the head or hold her against me if I'm laying next to her, and then that way give her further assistance. But nowadays, the last couple of days, she's not needing that from me, so she's been able to self-settle, and occasionally I just rub her and I don't know, what would you call it, rub her face, touch her face, to kind of reassure her that I'm here and I'm here to help her and to love her. Of course, don't start completely, you know, your baby self-settle, start slowly. So I'll include all the videos here. So at first I would shake her head, I would cuddle her, then at later stage I would leave her in the crib and just rub her while she's in the crib. Of course, if your baby gets very frustrated, you're probably, as a mum, you already know the difference between wailing, a little bit of crying, and very frustrated crying, traumatizing crying. Then if it gets to that stage, of course, do what you need to do, breastfeed to sleep. You don't want to traumatize your baby. It's all a stepping stone, so be patient, and you don't have to follow a specific method. That's what I did. I just read all the possible methods and kind of decided what my baby needs, and based off that made my own choices. So to quickly summarize this, what my method is listening to your baby, watching out for those self-soothing cues, and just assisting further to help her to go to sleep. As I mentioned, we're about a month into sleep training. Main thing is to be consistent, be there for your baby, and be aware that positive sleeping habits will take time. So if your baby is struggling to go to sleep, don't worry, there is answers, there's ways to help your baby go to sleep. It will just take time. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got inspired by something. I hope you've learned something, and I'm hoping you're gonna get some sleep soon. And remember, in the end, everything's going to be okay. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end.